Okay, now we're getting into the good stuff. How to open your consciousness. First and foremost, I'm going to acknowledge that there have been thousands and thousands of years of training for how to open one's consciousness. And often that training has come in the forms of religions or belief systems, shamanism, or lots of isms. I'm not even going to try to list them all, but the mystery schools, there are all of the plant medicines that open consciousness, and later on the synthetic drugs, LSD, and the various ones that are out now. I don't study them, so I'm not well versed in listing them for you right now. But you may be far more familiar than I am. But what I would like to share with you is to open your consciousness to be accessible to off-planet communications and the off-planet playground, which is readily accessible to you at any time, is very, very simple. And it begins with willingness. Just the willingness to be in a place that's gentle enough to listen, a place that isn't where you're sitting in a defensive position or ready to attack, just in case. The willingness to be in the absence of offense or defense, that really is probably the biggest step to opening your consciousness to connect. Opening your consciousness is, another way of saying that, is acknowledging your birthright that is connection with all of life, all forms of life, all dimensions of life, all frequencies of life. That's your birthright. You didn't come here to be limited to what's taught in public school or private school or homeschool. Unless homeschool is teaching you to how to open your consciousness and teaching you that you are an aspect of creator consciousness. If that's what your homeschool is teaching you, I want to come and play because that's awesome. And it's who you are. It's your birthright. Connection and communion with all of life is your birthright. Total flourishment, total fluidity, accessibility, freedom to communicate, to ask questions, to receive guidance, to be embraced completely by all of consciousness and all of life in love. That's your birthright. So when you come to the place of willingness to connect on all of these levels, that right there is the open door. That's you saying, okay, let's do it. I'm ready. Let's go. Show me what this is all about. Willingness is the first key. When you come to a place where you're willing, then there are tools you can use, little steps that you can take that really build on your willingness and actually make you accessible to the communication that's already there. Now, a lot of the teachings, a lot of the mystery schools and the religious approaches or the institutionalized approaches toward opening your consciousness, even meditation, a lot of those have been about the way what they've taught is the way to achieve connection is to quiet the mind and seek yourself. And not for a second am I going to say that those are wrong, because they're tools, and they are tools that have worked for thousands of years to help humanity be accessible to its true nature. But where we are right now in consciousness is very different. We are very literally at a new place in consciousness where we have accessibility that we have literally never had before. And that is very much because of all of the awareness that's happened over the past 20 years, close to 20 years especially, and accelerating mightily over these most recent years. The awareness that that humanity has come to in that tiny, itty-bitty, tiny short period of time has created a monumental opening for how we can and how we can be accessible and how we can access the data and information, the connections, the communication that's here for us. So while the ancient approach was to go and seek yourself, seek your higher self, seek the stillness of mind, what I'm going to suggest to you is rather than seek it, you claim it. If you already are this aspect of divinity, why would you go seeking it? Why not just say, okay, if I am that, I'll have it. Now, show me what that looks like. A shift in your perception on top of your willingness to be accessible are the two biggest openings you can create. The shift in your perception away from the thinking that, well, there must be something wrong with me, I must be broken, that I can't get this. Shifting from that perspective to, okay, if I am an aspect of creator consciousness, and if I have access to all of this, I'm willing to engage it. Now, show me what that looks like for me. That's a monumental 180-degree shift toward claiming your abilities, claiming your accessibility, claiming your birthright to connect with off-planet consciousness and all of consciousness, on-planet consciousness, underwater consciousness, cetacean consciousness, and including the consciousness of those who you have shared your life with, who may have transitioned, people who are no longer in their bodies. All of this is accessible to you when you're willing, and as you let your consciousness shift and arise in vibration. So those are the first two keys. I'm not going to call them steps, I'm going to call them keys, because they are keys that you can use over and over and over and over and over. Why would you need to use them over and over? Because, well, let me ask you, how well does it actually work to try to quiet your mind? Or does it just keep coming back? Why do we keep trying to quiet it when all it does is keep coming back? So there too, here's another suggestion for a monumental shift in how you think about and engage the world. Rather than quiet the mind, how about we actually start being friends with it? How about we start engaging and listening to the mind? Two things: listening to the mind in a way that lets our mind know we're all done fighting. We're not willing to fight anymore. And the second is giving the mind a job to do that actually serves. Giving the mind a job to do that not only makes the mind happy because it's contributing, but also gives the mind its own feedback on whether or not everything's okay, whether or not it needs a big fat defense or a big fat offense. We can give the mind a job so it creates its own new sets of data and information, and it'll find for itself whether or not being an aspect of creator consciousness and claiming your birthright as an entity that's healthy, whole, and complete, expressing itself with love through the physical form, is actually an okay place to be because that is your birthright. So willingness and letting your perspective shift to something that's far more in alignment with your birthright That is a huge beginning to opening your consciousness to communicate and be in communion with all of life. It's beautiful, beautiful stuff. Now, when you have the willingness and you're open to let the mind have new information, we'll be honest about it, when the mind gives itself permission to be open to some new information, then here's the job we want to give the mind. The mind's job will be to watch the body communicate when it feels the sensations of consciousness, when it feels the movement of consciousness, when it feels the awareness of the movement of consciousness. The reason why I say it's the body is because that's your physical instrument. Your body is designed to communicate, oh, I feel these frequencies moving. It's no different than walking into a room full of angry people. If you're blindfolded and nobody says peep, and you walk into a room full of angry people, your body is going to tell you you're in a room full of angry people the moment that you pay attention to what your body's actually communicating. Your body will never lie. And by the same token, if you walk into a room full of light-hearted, happy people, and you're blindfolded and nobody makes a sound, your body is going to communicate to you the ambiance of that room and the general ambiance of what's being communicated by the presence of the people in that room. That's how our bodies are designed, to work as an instrument on our behalf in that way. When we have the willingness and the openness to dance in our communication and communion with all of life, including off-planet presences, our body will function in the same way. It's just that we're opening our willingness and our awareness to communicate on different frequencies, different levels of awareness, higher frequencies. And when I say higher, it really is just a vibrational tone. It's not a hierarchy that off-planet presences are somehow better than humanity. Not at all. There is no comparison. It's a side-by-side all the way, but because they don't have a physical presence, they're operating at a higher frequency, a higher vibration. So when I talk about about higher presences, that's what I'm saying. It's not about a hierarchy of greater than and less than. So opening your consciousness is the willingness to have a new perspective about who you are and how you sense the world around you. That is all of your parts coming together in communion, and it is the most beautiful thing. It's actually relatively uncommon in everyday life because humanity is so bombarded by expectations, by judgments, by, well, expectations and judgments. And you can extrapolate that out to just about everything that interrupts your connection and communion with all of life. But playing with those approaches is going to open you up all the way. Playing and then playing again and playing again and playing again will continue to open you up further and further and further to where you start to really recognize the communication that's happening all the time. And your body will let you know immediately through various levels of tension, various levels of openness, and other sensations with a broad range of expression, from tingles to heat to vibration to just knowing. All of that becomes more and more and more and more fluid for you as you continue to play with these abilities that are your birthright. In a body, on a planet, engaging with consciousness in all of life. It's amazing. So this is just the introduction. If you have questions, please put them in the comments and it will all get integrated into the conversation. It's really, really good stuff, and all of this really is to empower you to claim your abilities as an aspect of creator consciousness in a body on a planet. Super fun stuff. So I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for being here and playing, and have a totally beautiful, super awesome time enjoying the planet, enjoying yourself, enjoying all of consciousness. Talk to you soon.